Every single person watching this video is the survivor of an unbroken chain of life stretching back roughly 3.5 billion years. Think about that for a moment. If even one of your ancestors had failed to survive, if one predator had been faster, if one drought had lasted a little longer, if one child had never been born, you wouldn't exist. Your heart wouldn't be beating. Your eyes wouldn't be reading these words. Every breath you take is the result of countless generations refusing to disappear. But who exactly were those ancestors? If we could travel backward through time, beyond every empire, every civilization, every language, every invention, what would we find? Would we meet a caveman, the first farmer, the first hunter, or would the story lead us somewhere even stranger? Today, we're going to trace humanity's family tree from the earliest life on Earth to the modern world. This isn't just the story of where humans came from, it's the story of how you became possible. To understand our origins, we have to forget everything we know about the modern world. Forget cities, forget countries, forget money, forget technology, forget civilization itself. Imagine standing on Earth long before humans ever existed. The air feels different, the landscape is wild. Towering volcanoes dominate the horizon. Dense forests stretch for thousands of kilometers. Massive rivers carve through untouched wilderness. No roads, no buildings, no voices, only the sounds of nature. For more than 160 million years, dinosaurs ruled this planet. If you had walked across the earth during that time, you wouldn't have seen people. You would have seen giants, some larger than buses, others with teeth the size of kitchen knives. For millions upon millions of years, it looked as though nothing could ever replace them. Then, everything changed. Around 66 million years ago, an asteroid nearly 10 kilometers wide slammed into what is now the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. The explosion released more energy than billions of nuclear bombs. Towering tsunamis raced across oceans. Wildfires spread across continents. Earthquakes shook the planet. Dust and ash filled the atmosphere, blocking sunlight for months. Plants died. Food chains collapsed, and nearly 75% of all species disappeared. It was one of the greatest mass extinctions in Earth's history. But while the giants vanished, something small survived. Hidden underground, tiny mammals waited. They weren't the strongest, they weren't the fastest, but they had something far more valuable. They could adapt. Sometimes survival doesn't belong to the biggest, it belongs to the most flexible. Those tiny mammals became the ancestors of elephants, whales, bats, monkeys, apes, and eventually us. Millions of years passed, the continents continued drifting. Mountains rose, oceans opened and closed, the climate changed again and again and again. Across Africa, dense forests slowly gave way to open woodlands and grasslands. For the animals living there, survival became harder. Food was farther apart, predators were easier to spot, but they could also spot you. Among those animals lived a population of ancient apes. Most continued living in the forests. Their descendants would eventually become today's chimpanzees and bonobos. But another population faced a different future. Around 6 to 7 million years ago, our evolutionary path separated from theirs. That doesn't mean humans evolved from modern chimpanzees. Instead, we share a common ancestor that lived millions of years ago. From that point onward, two different journeys began. One eventually led to chimpanzees, the other led to us. Scientists call this branch of the family tree the hominins. One of the earliest known members is a species with a complicated name, Sahelanthropus chadensis. Don't worry about remembering the name. What matters is why this fossil changed everything. When scientists examined its skull, they noticed something remarkable. At the bottom of the skull is a small opening where the spine connects. In animals that walk on four legs, this opening sits farther back. In humans, it sits almost directly underneath the skull, balancing the head above an upright body. The fossil suggested that these ancient relatives may already have been spending time walking on two legs. It sounds like a small difference. It wasn't. Standing upright transformed our future. Our hands no longer carried the weight of our bodies. They became free. Free to carry food, free to carry children, free to throw objects, free to gather, free to build, and one day free to change the world. But walking wasn't humanity's greatest breakthrough. It was only the beginning. Millions of years later, another remarkable ancestor appeared. Scientists called the species Australopithecus afarensis. Most people simply know her as Lucy. When her skeleton was discovered in Ethiopia in 1974, it transformed our understanding of human evolution. She stood just over 1 meter tall. Her brain was still much smaller than ours. She could climb trees with ease, but she also walked confidently on 2 legs. Lucy wasn't fully human. She wasn't simply an ape. She was one of the many stepping stones in a journey that unfolded over millions of years. Evolution doesn't leap forward overnight. It builds patiently, one tiny improvement, one generation at a time, and then one ordinary stone lying on the African ground would become the first technology in human history, a discovery so important that every tool, every machine, every computer, and even the smartphone in your pocket can trace its story back to that single moment, because the next chapter of humanity would begin with a rock.